What's going on, everyone? Let me tell you about something that absolutely consumed the conversation on NBA Today this afternoon, that has the entire Lakers community questioning everything they thought they understood about JJ Redick's rotation decisions and what it means for the team's trade deadline strategy. I'm talking about the kind of situation where a player who seemingly has exactly what the team desperately needs has been completely frozen out of the rotation for multiple games straight, not even getting garbage time minutes, which raises all sorts of questions about what's happening behind the scenes and whether this is a precursor to a major roster move. This isn't just about one rotation player falling out of favor. This is about organizational philosophy, about how you manage assets when you know you need to make trades, about the mysterious case of Jared Vanderbilt going from regular rotation player to DNP-CD for 4 consecutive games, despite the Lakers desperately needing exactly what he provides. So settle in, because what I'm about to share from today's ESPN broadcast isn't just about Vanderbilt's situation, it's about how this connects to the Lakers potentially pursuing Robert Williams III, about roster construction and trade strategy, about whether teams are better off showcasing trade assets or hiding them, and about what all of this means for the Lakers' championship aspirations. Lakers faithful, I need you right now. This content doesn't reach the fans who need it without your help. That like button is how we grow, how we build, how we make this the home for Lakers fans on YouTube. 1 click, 1 second, changes everything. If you bleed orange and blue and you love this content, prove it right now. Smash that like button. Let's build this together. Once a Lakers, always a Lakers. All right, here's the situation that had the entire NBA Today panel absolutely fascinated this afternoon. And I'm talking about veteran basketball analysts who've covered hundreds of trades and roster moves, but still found themselves genuinely puzzled by how the Lakers are handling the Vanderbilt situation. The main story that emerged wasn't actually about Robert Williams III initially, although we'll get to that extensively. It was about this absolutely bizarre situation where Jared Vanderbilt, who provides athleticism, defense, rebounding, and perimeter versatility that the Lakers desperately need, has been a complete DNP for 4 straight games, even when other defenders like Marcus Smart were unavailable. When you really break down what's happening here, when you consider all the possible explanations for why a player would go from getting 15-18 minutes per night to literally 0 minutes, including garbage time, it opens up this fascinating discussion about trade strategy and asset management that had the ESPN crew debating multiple theories. Let me start by giving you the full context that NBA Today was establishing right at the beginning of the broadcast, because understanding Vanderbilt's value and what he brings to the table is absolutely essential for grasping why his complete disappearance from the rotation is so confounding. Vanderbilt is exactly the type of player the Lakers need, based on everything we've been discussing all season long. He's an athletic wing defender who can guard multiple positions. He's an elite rebounder who creates second-chance opportunities. He brings energy and hustle that translates to winning plays. And while yes, he's an offensive liability who can't shoot threes, he's not someone who needs the ball to impact the game. The ESPN panel was discussing how in preseason Vanderbilt looked like vintage 2023 Vanderbilt, how everyone was excited about having him back healthy, and then, suddenly, he's completely out of the rotation, without any clear explanation. But here's what really got the NBA Today analysts engaged about this situation, and this is where the trade speculation and roster strategy becomes absolutely central to understanding what's happening. The ESPN crew was throwing out multiple theories to explain Vanderbilt's DNP streak, and each theory has different implications for what the Lakers might be planning. Theory number 1 is straightforward. Vanderbilt has simply fallen out of the rotation because other players are performing better and the Lakers are winning games, so why mess with what's working? Theory number 2 is more interesting. The Lakers are actively trying to trade Vanderbilt, and they're benching him to prevent injury that would tank his already questionable trade value. Theory number 3, which got labeled the tinfoil hat theory, but is actually really compelling, is that the Lakers don't want to trade Vanderbilt, and they're deliberately benching him so that other teams stop asking about him in trade negotiation. The show dove deep into each of these theories and the evidence supporting them. And here's where you really see how complex roster management becomes when you're trying to make trades while also winning games. The analysts were discussing how Vanderbilt is making $11.5 million this year, $12.5 million next year, and $2 million the year after, with a player option in 2027 to 28, which isn't a terrible contract, but it's also not super movable, especially for a player who's been benched for 4 straight games. If you're trying to trade Vanderbilt, conventional wisdom says you should be playing him to showcase his value and remind teams why they'd want to acquire him. But if teams are constantly calling and asking about Vanderbilt in every trade discussion, and you don't want to move him because you know you need his defense and rebounding, then maybe you bench him, hoping teams lose interest and start asking about other players instead. What the ESPN crew kept emphasizing, and I think this is absolutely critical for understanding how this connects to Robert Williams III, is that the Lakers have clear roster needs that everyone knows about. They need two-way wing players who can defend multiple positions and knock down threes. They need athleticism on the perimeter. They need defensive versatility for playoff matchups. Vanderbilt provides some of that, but not all of it. And the question becomes whether you trade him as part of a package to upgrade to someone who provides more of what you need, or if you keep him because he's the only player on the roster who provides what he does, even if it's incomplete. This debate was getting really heated on the panel, with analysts taking strong positions on both sides. The panel spent extensive time analyzing the Robert Williams III possibility within this context, and this is where the whole discussion started to come together in a really interesting way. If the Lakers are seriously pursuing Williams from Portland, and multiple reports suggest they are, then Vanderbilt becomes one of the most logical pieces to include in a trade package from a salary matching perspective. Vanderbilt makes $11.5 million. Williams makes roughly $13 million. You add in maybe a second-round pick or another small contract, and suddenly you have a deal framework that works for both teams. The NBA Today crew was discussing how this would make perfect sense for the Lakers. You'd be upgrading from a player who provides elite defense and rebounding, but zero spacing, to a player who provides elite rim protection, defensive versatility, and he's a lob threat who can actually finish on offense. What I found particularly fascinating during today's NBA Today discussion was when they started breaking down Portland's perspective on a potential Vanderbilt for Williams swap and why the Trailblazers might actually be interested, despite Williams being the more talented player when healthy. Portland is in full rebuild mode. They have DeAndre Ayton and Donovan Clingan as their future at center. Williams has missed massive chunks of time with knee injuries, and they're terrified he gets hurt again and becomes completely untradeable. The ESPN analysts were suggesting that Portland might actually prefer getting Vanderbilt, who's younger, has a longer contract that gives them control and represents a different positional need, even though he's less talented. The Blazers could flip Vanderbilt to another team more easily than Williams, or they could just play him and see if his value increases. The show also explored the injury concerns around Williams and whether the Lakers should even be pursuing him, given his medical history. And honestly, this sparked some of the most passionate debate of the entire segment. Some analysts argued that Williams has missed way too many games due to knee problems, that betting on him to stay healthy is foolish, that the Lakers would be better off keeping Vanderbilt, who at least is available even if he's not playing. Others countered that when you have LeBron at 40 and Luka in his prime, and a legitimate championship window, you have to take calculated risks on high-upside players like Williams, who, when healthy, is one of the 3 best rim protectors in the entire league. The debate was essentially about risk tolerance and whether the Lakers' situation demands aggressive moves or conservative asset management. What really struck me during the ESPN analysis was when they started discussing the tactical fit of Williams alongside Anthony Davis, and how this would completely transform the Lakers' defensive identity. The NBA Today crew was breaking down how Williams starting at center would allow Davis to play his preferred power forward position, where he's historically been more comfortable and more durable, how having two elite rim protectors would make the Lakers' paint defense absolutely suffocating, how Williams' ability to switch onto smaller players would give them incredible defensive versatility. The analysts were showing clips of Williams in his prime, with Boston just absolutely dominating defensively, and making the argument that even if he only plays 50-55 games during the regular season, if he's healthy for the playoffs, that's all that mattered. The panel also spent significant time discussing the tinfoil hat theory about Vanderbilt, and whether there's actually merit to the idea that the Lakers are benching him to reduce trade interest. The ESPN crew was discussing how Rob Pelinka is known for being very strategic and sometimes unconventional in how he manages the roster, how there have been instances in the past where the Lakers seem to be playing 4D chess with their rotation decision. If every team calling about trades keeps asking for Vanderbilt, and you don't want to move him because you value what he provides, even if you're not currently playing him, then maybe you bench him hoping teams forget about him and focus their trade proposals around other players instead. It sounds crazy, but the analysts were suggesting it's not completely outside the realm of possibility. One aspect that got really interesting discussion was how Vanderbilt's complete benching, even when Marcus Smart was unavailable, suggests this isn't just about on-court performance, but about something bigger happening behind the scenes. The NBA Today panel was pointing out that if Vanderbilt was simply falling out of the rotation due to performance or fit, you'd expect to see his minutes gradually decline over time, not go from 15-18 minutes per game to literally zero, including garbage time overnight. That sudden drop suggests organizational decision-making rather than organic rotation changes, which feeds into all the trade speculation and theories about what the Lakers are planning. Listen, after watching the entire NBA Today segment this afternoon about Jared Vanderbilt's mysterious benching and how it connects to the Lakers potentially pursuing Robert Williams III, I'm absolutely convinced that something major is brewing behind the scenes, even if we don't know exactly what yet. The Vanderbilt situation makes no basketball sense unless you view it through the lens of trade strategy. Either they're showcasing other players while hiding Vanderbilt to prevent injury, or they're deliberately reducing his visibility to decrease trade interest. Or they're working on a deal that includes him and don't want him getting hurt before it's finalized. My personal theory is that the Lakers are seriously pursuing Williams from Portland, and Vanderbilt is the centerpiece of that trade package, which would explain why they've completely shut him down even when they could use his defense and rebounding. Williams, when healthy, provides everything the Lakers need. Elite rim protection that allows AD to play the 4, defensive versatility for playoff matchups, lob-catching ability that adds an offensive dimension. Yes, there are massive injury concerns, and yes, it's a significant gamble. But when your championship window is this narrow, you have to be willing to take calculated risks on high-upside players. If Pelinka can swap Vanderbilt plus a second-rounder for Williams and get 50 games out of him, that's a win that makes the Lakers significantly better come playoff time.